Hey there, welcome to the One Brain Four Wheels channel. It's the Gear Bear here like always, and in today's video I'm going to show you guys how to replace the power antenna mast on a C5 Corvette. So before we get started with this project, I feel like a little explanation is due for why this project even came to be. So earlier this week I had a coupon for a free touch car wash at a local car wash down the road from me, and I figured naturally let's take the C5 Corvette. It was dirty, why not? That was a stupid mistake because what I forgot is that on these convertible C5s, they have a power antenna, which isn't very strong. Most car antennas anyways probably are at risk of being damaged when you go through a touch car wash, and unfortunately mine came out like this. Well, it was more like this actually by the time I was out of it. And needless to say, I didn't have much reception in my radio anymore, and I kind of decided that I didn't like having a beat up, junky little antenna, so it was time to replace it. So I went on to Amazon right away, ordered a brand new one, which I will link in the description below, and hopefully it works out good, because we're going to go try it out right now. So without further ado, let's get started with this project. Alright, so here's the replacement antenna mast, and taking it out of the package, it seems to be very equivalent to the one that came off the car. It's got a nice metal finish on it, just like the old one did. Brand new nylon rope that actually, this is what touches the gear on the antenna motor and gets the mast to go up and down. And it comes with a new grounding collar at the base. So everything seems like it's good to go, so I'm going to go ahead and start the install. Now, one thing worth noting, my mast replacement is going to be pretty simple. I'm simply going to be removing the old one and putting in a new one. However, there's a few situations you guys might find yourself in where it's going to be a little bit more involved, a little bit more time consuming, and have more steps. One thing, if your mast is actually fine, however, you're having an issue with it fully retracting or fully extending, you might have a problem with your nylon cord actually being partly broken within the antenna motor. If that's the case, what you're going to end up having to do is actually remove the antenna motor by removing the mast first, then going through one of the tail lights and actually unbolting the motor and pulling it through, and then you have to open it up or try to tilt it upside down and get all of this cord out of it. So if that's your issue, then it's going to be a little bit more involved. And as should be expected, if you're having any other issues that are more involved with the motor and not the actual mast itself, you're going to actually need to pull that whole mechanism out of behind the bumper area, which will involve removing the mast first and then doing all those later steps. However, this is just going to be going over how to replace the mast. Alright, so in my situation, when I got home, my mast was broken. However, it wasn't actually separated into two pieces. That top section was totally bent over because it had been hit with the car wash mechanism. And so when I got home, step one was to actually bend that completely off. That way I could actually completely separate these two pieces, only having the nylon cord running through the rest of the antenna and into the motor. So with that top piece, the metal mast actually broken apart, and with the engine and the radio completely turned off, I actually went ahead and took that broken top half of the mast and pulled it away from the rest of the car and the mechanism, pulling the rest of that nylon cord out of there. And you could kind of hear it kind of rubbing against the gears of the motor, of the antenna motor. And it is completely pulled free, and I'm going to kind of go over here. So imagine all that cord right there that you see kind of coiled up. Imagine that's all in the antenna mast that's still part of the car, and it all just very slowly pulled all the way out, like so. And it's got all over my hand, thank you. And that's what I was left with, was that little bit of the antenna that was still mounted as part of the car. So then what I did was took some pliers, it could be anything, and you'll notice that there's a little bit of a ring around the base of the antenna that's still here. And you'll see there's a flat spot on two sides. There's one there, and we get it from on top actually. It might be kind of hard to see. But the point is that there's two flat pieces there, and what you can do is take any type of pliers you can, and see, I don't have my glasses on, so I'm kind of blind, but you could take anything on there, and you can turn that little retaining nut. And when you go ahead and keep turning that, eventually that thing will be able to come off, and you're going to take that retaining nut off, set it aside, and do not lose it. And at this point, you're left with the base of the antenna ready to pull free. And if you pull up, you'll see that at the base of the antenna is actually a grounding collar. It's not really focusing, but it's a little bit wider than the rest of the antenna, and I only have one hand free, but it is actually free from the rest of the antenna. It just kind of fills the in-between void between the antenna mast itself and the little sleeve kind of that it's sitting in as part of the car. And some people have an issue with those just getting corroded over the years and getting stuck. And so there's a few different things you can do trying to kind of wedge something in there and then grab that collar out with some needle nose pliers on the edge. So you might have that issue, but otherwise for me it was really easy. You just go ahead and pull that thing out and the antenna is now ready to be replaced. Now, unfortunately for me, when I was originally taking out my old antenna mast, I was a little bit overzealous and I hadn't paid attention to what side the teeth were located on the nylon cord that was on the original antenna mast. So what I have to do now at this point, because it is important, if you put it in the wrong way, then the gear that's actually in the antenna motor won't be grabbing on the right side of that nylon rope, and it won't do anything. If anything, it might jam up your motor and mess up or create another issue. So what I actually did was took out the screws holding out the rightmost tail light, and what I can do now, I'll show you guys here in a minute, but I'm actually going to see in there and take a look at the motor assembly in the housing, and from that I can tell where the gear is, and that'll tell me how I should orient the nylon cord as I feed in the new antenna mast. So looking inside of the bumper through the rightmost tail light kind of cutout and using the old antenna mast as a pointer, I want you guys to go ahead and look back here. That is actually the power antenna motor and the rest of the assembly. So you can kind of see down here, it's kind of where the base of the antenna mast is kind of going through that hole up on the top of the car. And then down here is the main part of the motor. And I don't know if you guys can really tell that well, but it actually is angled kind of back this way. So if you're looking at the back of the car, the whole motor assembly for the antenna is kind of oriented in this direction or this axis. And so kind of, I don't know if it's the best way to describe it, but essentially your mast kind of comes down here and the motor has a big gear that goes like this. And that gear is grabbing onto that nylon, the teeth on that nylon rope that's attached to the antenna. So the idea here is that when you put that nylon rope down, it needs to have the teeth facing that gear, which is going to be circular in here. So when you put the rope down, the teeth need to be facing that direction. So the teeth will be facing out that way on angle. So what I'm going to do is when I feed the new mast in, have the teeth facing that way. All right, so it's going to be a little tricky one-handed, but please bear with me. So if you guys kind of come down here, I really hope you guys can pick it up, but you guys can see the teeth on that nylon rope. I want you to be able to tell that, just like I described earlier, they are facing on angle away from the car. So a lot of things I read online and even in the instructions, they say the teeth will either face forward or backwards. But in this case, the power antenna motor is mounted on angle. So you don't actually put it straight back and forth like this. What it is looking this way, the teeth are facing out towards my hand. And so I'll kind of come around and hopefully you guys can pick up on that. There they are. Like I said, the teeth are mounted slightly or oriented slightly forward and to the right of the car. And when you put it in there, and I have the whole mast extended out like so I have less of the nylon rope showing, I stuck it into the hole, and you guys will see it doesn't quite go all the way down. And what you're going to want to do to get it started is when you have it oriented correctly, you can then give it a little bit of pressure. And you can kind of feel, I can feel that I'm turning the gear inside of there and feeding this nylon rope in, down into the antenna housing. And it's slowly feeding in. And what I want to do is get it just enough where I can then feed the antenna in, or the mast, I should say. So I'm actually going to go ahead and pull this out a little bit and feed a little bit more of that nylon rope down into the gear, being careful not to actually break it or anything. So I'm actually gripping the nylon rope pretty close to the base because I don't want it to like bend and crack on me, just enough to kind of feed it in. And my hands are kind of slipping a little bit because it's greasy. So essentially what I'm desiring is that I can get this down in here enough where it'll catch the gear, which it seems like it is, and I can have the antenna mast actually standing up. Then what I can do is go ahead and turn on the car and turn off the radio, and it will then engage the rest of that nylon rope down into the motor and pull the whole thing down, and then I can go ahead and button everything up and it'll be good to go. So that's really what I'm hoping this will do, and it seems like it should work. All right, so that was a little interesting. So I decided to keep feeding that nylon cord into the motor assembly. Really, I was just gonna go as far as it would let me, and then I was gonna go ahead and turn on the car and let it engage and do the thing like I was describing. But the motor must know or have a sensor or something that I was feeding in the cord, and it actually, as I was about halfway done with it, it just sucked it in with the rest of the mast, and it looks like it's good to go. All right, so here it is all up close and personal, and it looks really good, to be honest with you. You can see just a little bit of the grounding collar there is kind of exposed, but I'm thinking once we go ahead and put on that little retaining nut on the top of it, it should cinch that down and hold everything nice and in place, and then we'll power up the antenna one last time, confirm that it goes up and down, and then I think this project should be good to go. All right, moment of truth. Let's power this bad boy up. All right, 3, 2, 1. And that looks good to go. Yeah, nice and straight. Like I said earlier in the video, the finish on this is fine. I did notice after I was putting it in, I did not do this, but the top finish on the top of the antenna mast, it's not really focusing, but it does have some wear marks, and it's brand new, so I don't really know about that. You guys couldn't see it, but it's fine. It's a little wear mark. Who's really looking at the top of the antenna anyways? I don't really care. But the install looks great. Need to go ahead and put the screws back into that light, but you guys shouldn't have to do that because I already told you guys now that on these C5s, the orientation, the gears need to be facing this way. So you guys should be able to omit that step, but I needed to do it. But other than that, this looks like a job well done and very easy. Even with filming, this took me about a half hour. So this was not a difficult project at all. Anyone can do this. Also, watching the mast go up and down a few times made me think it might not be a bad idea to apply a little bit of grease or lube to the new mast, just so it kind of goes up and down a little bit more smoothly, and it puts a little bit less wear and tear on the mast components itself, because it doesn't seem that anywhere on the shaft it has any lube. And as many things in life, you want it to be lubed up. It's always a little bit better that way. So there you have it. That is how you can easily replace your power antenna mast on a C5 Corvette. You know, initially when this whole thing went down, I was pretty uneasy about the fact that I had just broken something. I had no idea what it was going to cost me and really how much work was going to be involved, which was actually a lot less than I thought. I was thinking it was going to be an expensive unit. I was going to have to replace the whole motor or the whole assembly. And really just a quick search online on the Corvette forums actually was what let me realize that it was going to be a really easy fix, and it was actually easy to pop just the mast out of the rest of the assembly without having to undo any other components of the antenna. And so that was pretty awesome to be able to have that find. And then to realize that the part itself was less than $25 and I could get it in 2 days, it was like, whoa, a no-brainer. I'm going to get this project done quickly and easily. And so I was really happy that this went down so nicely. So yeah, if you guys found yourselves in a similar predicament as I, with a broken antenna mast on your beautiful Corvette, then I hope you guys found this video helpful. And if you did find it helpful, then I would really appreciate you guys giving this video a big thumbs up, because I would really appreciate it, and it will really help promote the video in the search results, and hopefully it can help out other Corvette owners fix this same issue on their cars. But anyhow, I think that wraps this video up. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel One Brain, Four Wheels if you'd like to see more projects with my C5 Corvette, or my 2004 Suburban, my 1977 Cadillac Eldorado, my 1988 Pontiac Fiero GT, my 2016 Jeep Grand Cherokee, and that about does it for the channel for now, although who knows, you know, it's a brand new year, might get new cars on the channel. It's always, you know, a guessing game with me, because I like to keep it interesting, and I get bored with things quick, and I always want something new to play with, even though I really need to focus on the projects I've got currently. But we'll see how this year progresses. But anyhow, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope this solves a problem for you guys and you enjoyed the video. See you next time.